fellow by the name of the Prince of this world. He's also known by several other names in the Bible that are not complimentary. Antichrist, the man of sin, the son of perdition, on and on we could go to name this fellow. One of the other names that he is called in the Bible is that of beast. Now you have to understand, and we will illustrate this in just a bit, that he is called a beast because he rules over a beast. And in Bible times, both the king and their kingdom were closely associated. They were, as it were, married one to the other, so that you could not talk of the one without considering the other. That's like Jesus Christ and the king over the kingdom. We do not have the kingdom dispensation starting until the king arrives on this planet. And so it's very important to understand that when you call it beast, you have to refer to it as those groups of nations, 10 of them, that band together under the beast, their leader, the king, Antichrist. So it's beast 1 and beast 2. So we're going to talk about the mark of the beast. Now in this case, both beasts are represented. The leader requires this mark, and the nations involved in that overall a corporate entity called the beast, it requires it. You have to have it to function economically. You can't do your banking, you can't do your buying without something known as the mark of the beast. Now, the mark of the beast is going to have something on it that reflects both the individual and the national aspect of the beast. Let's look at it in verse number 15 of Revelation chapter 13. And he, the false prophet, this is the Jewish high priest, during the tribulation period at the first part, Antichrist signs a covenant with the Jews. He signs a covenant with the king of the Jews, or we'll call him a prime minister or president, and that is to allow them to reinstate their corrupt Mosaic worship, which involves animal sacrifices. In order to have that corrupt worship reinstated, they have to have the Aaronic priesthood reinstated. And so, therefore, there is a high priest. Now, this high priest, midway into the point of the tribulation period, becomes an ambassador, as it were, the minister to Antichrist. And he is the one who draws the world, and especially Israel, into the worship of the man. And the false prophet had power to give life to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Okay, so today, especially in light of Star Trek and that sort of thing, we have no problems understanding a machine talking, a machine having rapport with men, being able to look like a man and respond as a person, even to the point of having feelings and emotions. And anybody that's followed the current Star Trek series Generations understands that Mr. Data is a machine, but you think of him as a person. We have machines available that are doing that today. All you have to do is go to Disney World and through some of the rides, and you would think that you're talking to a person. The Hall of Presidents, where Abraham Lincoln stands up and gives an address. Well, it's going to come to the point, and we've got the computers already, where they are voice activated. You can actually talk to it, and they will respond to you. They're already in place. Another few years, and they will have this technology mastered. Now, here's what he does. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. Now, please remember that at this point, the he being referred to here is the false prophet. Prior to this point, only 10 nations and a few satellites have this mark. There are many prophetic teachers who teach that the mark of the beast is universal, universally required throughout the whole of the tribulation period. That is not true. The Jews don't get it till midway through. The 10 nations plus the satellites of Antichrist have it, and also it will be on their products. And you say, well, Pastor, now isn't that interesting? In other words, the mark of the beast will be on both products and people. Yes, that's true. Did you know that the mark of the beast is already here? The universal product code is the mark of the beast. The universal product code has a 6 on the left side, a 6 in the middle, and a 6 on the right. It's very easily proven. And for those that are smaller, as far as the code is concerned, they have unique ways of hiding this little number 666 in the product code. It's already in place. It's called the Universal Product Code. And all that's going to happen is they're going to make a barcode that's called the Universal People Code for the numbering of people. Eventually, all except for the remnant will have the mark of the beast on them by the end of the tribulation period. But at first, just the 10 nations, the satellites of those 10 nations, and then the Jews by the midpoint of the tribulation period. And as Antichrist conquers, people are required to take this mark. Now, the mark has to do with a brand, a tattoo, as it were. And again, in light of our current society, the thing to do is to get a tattoo. I saw the World's Strongest Man competition where this Samoan, and he was the most, I don't think I've ever seen anybody as huge and he was just powerful. But I looked, and underneath his lifting shorts, he had tattoos like he had shorts on. I mean, it was the strangest thing evidently from belly button to mid-thigh. He had some guy to tattoo him as though he could have taken his shorts off, as it were, and he would have had tattooed on him these shorts. And it was the strangest thing I'd ever seen in my life. But that's the thing to do. I was visiting somebody in the hospital, and as I was going up, a young lady came in. She pressed a button there, and I had my head down, and I noticed that she had, as it were, a bouquet of flowers tattooed from her ankle all the way up to the mid part of her calf. And I said, wow, that's a pretty rose you have there. And she said, yes. She said, but the problem is I have trouble keeping the bees away from it. Evidently, it looked so. It did. It looked real. It looked so lifelike that she said the bugs bother her. Well, anyway, be that as it may, that's the thing to do. But globally, this is going to be the trend. You've got to do it. You've got to take the mark, and that's exactly what the word means: a brand or a tattoo, and it's going to be on your hand or your head. Now, verse number 17, that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name or the number of his name. Now that's verse number 17. Now the thing about this verse is that it seems to list three things. And though it does, it's not talking about three different things necessarily, three separate things that you have to have one or the other. It lists these three things because they're all together. In other words, to have the mark means that you have the name and that you have the number. You have to have all three of these things. The mark is the name, is the number. He lists them technically separately because the mark is something that you have to have. The mark includes the name and it includes the number. What is the number? Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man. Literally, it's the numbering of a man. This is a universal numbering system where somebody gets number 1 and somebody gets number 2 and 666 00003 and 666 and 00004 and that sort of thing. It is a numbering system. Now, for those who might question this, let's look at where the word number is used in the book of Revelation. Turn to chapter 5, verse 11. Every time this word, arithmos, is used in the book of Revelation, guess what it does? It numbers. Verse 11. I beheld and heard the voice of many angels round about the throne, the beast, and the elders, and The number of them was 10,000 times 10,000, thousands of thousands. Now, what did that word do? It numbered the angels. It's an innumerable company as far as we're concerned, but God knows the number, and each one has a number. Like he calls the stars by their number and name. He knows exactly how many stars he created. Turn to chapter 7, verse 4, where we have the same word used for a numbering system. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, 144,000, all of the tribes of Israel. That's what the mark of the beast is. It is a numbering system. Chapter 9 and verse 16. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. One more time it's used in Revelation chapter 20 and verse 8. And Satan shall go out to deceive the nations in the four quarters of the earth, to gather them together to battle. The last part of the verse, the number of them is as the sand of the sea. Now, I bring that to your attention simply because that's what the mark of the beast is. It is a numbering system for each person, and of course, we have it for a product. There are people here who work in retail. And you know what you have? You have this little number in the back. And for those who have the computers, you just simply scan it. And the computer keeps tab of your what? Inventory. It numbers how many bottles of this, how many packages of that you have. And what the Universal People Code is a numbering system for people. On the one hand, economically, it keeps account of your money. It keeps count of the inventory of merchandise, and it keeps account of people, so that you cannot participate in the world economy without that number. Now, what I've drawn for you here is undoubtedly what we would call the mark of the beast, incorporating everything that is included in John's writing in the book of Revelation. The number of the beast is the numbering of man, 666. You've got to have the mark, the name, or the number of his name. Okay, now, what in the book of Revelation, the word name there actually can mean a title, the ultimate title. Let's find what Jesus Christ calls himself in the book of Revelation, and in so doing, we can get the name of the beast and his number and what his mark will look like. Revelation chapter 1. 4 times in the book of Revelation, this title is given regarding Jesus Christ. All right? Verse number 8. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the ending. Now note verse 11, he adds something to that, saying, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. Now 2 other times in the book of Revelation, Alpha and Omega are used. Now, you have to go back to the Greek language and understand the use of Alpha and Omega. It's not hard because we do it in the English language today. If we're writing a little bit of an outline and we have used a numbering system prior to this for the main points, what do we usually do for the subpoints? It's A, B, C. And what is A? It is Alpha or Aleph in the Hebrew, and it came through popular usage to be known as first place, first in rank, first in time, first in importance. A plus, you say. Now, the blue here is the Greek letter alpha. Again, In its form, it's very similar to the English, especially in its capitalized form. And both the letters that we're going to see here are the capital Greek letters. So the blue indicates Alpha. I am the Alpha. I'm first place as Antichrist. That's part of the mark of the beast, his name, or his ultimate title. And that's what Jesus Christ is showing us here. His ultimate title is Alpha and Omega. And Alpha means that I am the first. I'm the chosen of God. I'm the one you go to first. I have priority. I have preeminence. Now, what is this man? Antichrist. But he is the counterfeit of Christ. Therefore, he's going to say, I'm number one. I'm the Alpha. You come to me first. I'm the one to be worshiped, glorified, honored, and obeyed in the tribulation period. Okay? The black outline, as we have it here, is the Greek Omega. And again, like the Alpha, we say it includes everything from A to what in the English? A to Z. Why do we go to Z? That's the last letter here. That's the final word. Z. That's the final thing you say. It can't go beyond Z. There's no more. And so therefore, Omega, like our Z, came to stand for the last word on anything. And that's what he's saying. If you want the buck stops here philosophy, I am the Omega. I am the Z. I'm the last word on anything. You come to me and the buck stops here, and the way I say it goes. And so therefore, you have, and I like the design here, it's probably a little more sophisticated, updated, modernized than what I have, but yet you get the basic picture. I've drawn something like this similar before, but there are new folks, and I did have the question. What's the mark of the beast? Okay, the mark is a tattoo that every person will have to have. Now, whether it's the invisible laser under the skin or what have you, a little microchip under the skin, or I think that it's going to be something that is permanently attached so that it cannot be erased to the body itself. But be that as it may, I've added a couple other things here that will be included in my estimation. One will be this triangle in the Alpha, something that falls naturally there. But you have got, as we'll consider in our next thing on the overhead, our next chart, we have got an unholy trinity. And that unholy trinity will be basically the gods that will be worshipped during the tribulation period. That triangle is going to stand for them. Also, you've got the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, as Antichrist. He claims to be that. Also, you have here something that we all have on our dollar bill. In the midst of a pyramid, we have an all-seeing eye. It is the sign of the Illuminati. The Illuminati is a group of people that intend to bring about world conquest through economy. Give me your money and I don't care who dictates your army, says the Illuminati. That's their philosophy, and that's true. Army must be financed. So the person, not with the largest army, but the person with the biggest bankroll, that is the person that's going to ultimately win. So it's the all-seeing eye of the Illuminati here. It's on our dollar bill. Okay, so we then move to the final thing. In the bridge of the Alpha is the mark of the beast. This slash has two little lines, and you can look at it on any universal product code, any one that has the bigger image of it. There are two slashes in the middle of equal length and two slashes on the right. And that, they tell me, is 666. And I've got books that have been written to show that is actually the number. Anything in between is simply the number, then they can go pretty much up into the billions there of people, starting with 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 2, and the like. And that will be fixed there. So that in all of this, if you have this, guess what you have? You have the mark, the name, and the number of the beast, all in one. And that is the concept that we have here. Now, just a little by the by, I'll just throw this in during this hectic Christmas shopping season. Every time you exchange money, and especially if you put it on a credit card, guess what you're doing? You're helping this little, now there's nothing we can do about it. We have all got to shop. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but it's there. Awake to the fact, it's there. Every time you make a purchase and they go zip and zing it on your credit card, you are contributing to the universal system of product inventory control. And somebody's going to awaken, they've already done it, I believe, and say, well, guess what? If we had this mark on people, there would be no counterfeiting. You don't need money. There would be no forgery. After all, they'd have to alter their head to get a forgery up there. There'd be no forgery. What a system of people control. And guess what? We could, from around the globe through satellites, press a button, and no matter where they are on the planet, we could keep track of them and of their purchases. Fantastic. Let's implement it. And I believe it's right down the road here. So, that's the mark of the beast. The Alpha, the Omega, the all-seeing eye, and it goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 3, whenever Lucifer said, universal consciousness, God's keeping something from you. If you eat of the tree, your eyes will be opened. Did you get that? To know good and evil, universal consciousness. Your eyes will be open as to how to get good, human good, the best of life, and evil apart from God. You'll know it. You'll know how to do it. And that's why the mark of the Illuminati is on our dollar bill, and that's why there'll be a mark of the beast. It will signify that you're worshiping the beast with his mark. It will signify that you are qualified to have access to his economic system. All right. Do you know what I forgot to do? I really am going to have to stay away from the NutraSweet. They say that stuff affects your brain. And I've been noticing a real decline here in the gray cells. Now, let's turn to the book of Daniel. Book of Daniel. Chapter 11. Now, here is something else that is not widely known. You didn't know you were going to come today and get everything you wanted to know about the intimate details of the tribulation period. Well, you are. You've just learned about the mark and how, in fact, we're in the system already. Now, that's scary because it is almost an impossibility for you to go anywhere today without that mark being on a product associated right with you. The universal product code is already in place. It takes inventory of everything. All that has to be in place is the universal people code. And we're there. And we're stuck. Now, we know, of course, the church will be raptured. And that's the tension, you see. Do you know that God, the Holy Spirit, has to hold back this economic system, the placement of this economic system, so that the mark of the beast cannot be placed on the church? That's the tension. The tension is we want to spend and spend and spend and spend. And God the Holy Spirit says, wait 1 second. That was an interesting thing whenever I said that verse of scripture, the wicked borrow and don't pay back. And I said we could get back at them about 3 months before the rapture. Just run your credit cards up. And some have said that they're testing that theory already. That it's up there to the max right now. You got to wait a few years unless you don't intend to pay them off. Okay. There are 3 gods in the tribulation period. They're false gods. And you have to understand that one of the gods is going to be Antichrist. He'll be considered a god-man. Two of the gods will be angels, and there'll be another man, the false prophet, and we'll see his link up here in just a second. But in Daniel chapter 11, verse number 36, the king mentioned here is the king of fierce countenance, is the prince that shall come, is the little horn of Daniel chapter 7. All of these names and titles we've gotten right from Daniel. They're all various aspects of how to view Antichrist. Now, he's going to do according to his will. But now, actually, though he is willful and rebellious against God, he does have some help, as we've studied before. Two angels, two of the most powerful angels ever created. Perhaps the only two others that are of equal power or thereabouts are Gabriel and Michael. But the two of the most powerful angels ever created were Lucifer, or the devil we know him now, or Abaddon, that's the Hebrew, or Apollyon in the Greek. His name means the enforcer or the destroyer. Perhaps his first name is Harry. They call him Dirty Harry. He's the enforcer. He's the destroyer, you see. Okay? Verse 36, he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods. Okay, now just hold your place right here and turn to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. This king is Antichrist. And Daniel chapter 11, the last half of that whole chapter, is dedicated to him. Now, what we're going to do is show you one of the gods of the tribulation period. This is a God-man, as Jesus Christ was God and man. Antichrist is going to purport to be God and man. Verse number 4. The son of perdition, last part of verse 3, opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God. Now, Daniel just said this king does what he wants to do, and he speaks against the God of gods. Paul amplifies on it, taking it right from Daniel. Right from Daniel. Paul says, I know what this guy's going to do because Daniel already wrote, and I want to inform you this is what he's going to do. He's going to exalt himself above all that is called God, that is worshipped, so that he, as God, he's one of the gods to be worshipped, sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So we'll just put a little 2 on this side of this fellow here and understand that Antichrist considers himself God. So that the false prophet comes, and guess what he does? He makes the world worship the beast as God, or as the Messiah. All right, but now, verse 37. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. But now, I want you to note that we're going to see an exception. We're back to Daniel 11. He is going to honor, however, 2 gods. Verse number 38. In his estate shall he honor the God of forces. Who is the God of forces? The devil. Let's just note that by holding your place here and turning back to the book of Ephesians. Now, the concept, the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, the angelic armies, and that is considered in this bit of the God of forces, the God of war, the God who's able to make war. Note verse number 2, Ephesians 2:2. Time past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now works in the children of disobedience. Now, the prince of the power of the air we know to be Lucifer. Well, who are the powers over which he rules? What are his forces? Chapter 6 tells us. When it says he honors the God of forces, he is honoring the devil, who has 1/3 of the fallen angels in place, ready to help out in invasion earth, to get the earth ready for Antichrist. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, against principalities and powers, rulers of the darkness of this world. This is verse number 12, against spiritual wickedness in the heavenly places. He is the God of forces. He is the Lord of hosts in the evil sense. Revelation chapter 12. Verse 7, there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Their place was not found any more in heaven. The dragon was cast out, which is called the devil and the serpent, which deceived the whole world. Now his angels, of course, were, as it says, cast out with him in the last part of verse number 9. So the second God that is worshipped, wait, before you lose your place there in Revelation chapter 12, go to chapter 13. Last part of verse 2. And the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. Verse 4. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. So actually the primary god of the tribulation period will be Lucifer, known as the devil or Satan. He will be the one that is ultimately worshipped by Antichrist himself. Antichrist, as we've seen in these lessons, bows down to Lucifer and says, "Give me the world as my inheritance." He is the God of forces, and so he alerts all of the forces of the heavenlies to be ready to aid Antichrist in this endeavor of taking over the whole world.